Thanks so much for organizing this all. It's a great pleasure to be here. It's good to see all you ladies and some gentlemen also. Wonderful. That's just like how it should be. I guess I have three parts. One was that I wanted to make sure that you got to see some of the maps. So we now have 100 maps of science. Each one of them is 24 by 30 inches, so it's large. If you want to hang them all, you need the two large sides of a football field. So you can imagine you can really wallpaper an entire university, or well, at least a building inside of one university. And it's a great pleasure to actually travel with those maps in the US, but also abroad. Currently the maps are on display at the University of Miami. If you get to go there, they have beautiful buildings and they're right there. They have a wonderful talk series organized surrounding those maps. Lots of really amazing data visualization researchers come in and get to present kind of in the environment where these maps are on display right now. It goes to Duke University next, and then Northwestern University, and then from there off to other places. Some of you might have seen Liesel putting those up. Whenever you want to purchase a map, Christmas is coming up. We actually like to sell those maps because we take the income and we make sure that these classrooms which your children or your little friends are going to, that they have not only large-scale maps of the world hanging on the wall, but also large-scale maps of our collective scholarly and technology knowledge. We believe that these kids, they need to understand why in the world do they have to now go from mathematics to engineering and to biology, and how is this all connected, and it's so abstract and so non-tangible for many, many children. But by giving it a shape and a form and having them talk about how you actually can make it from one area of science to another one, and how these are all interlinked and how they contribute to each other, I think that gives them a better way into science ultimately also. And that's not only true for children, it's also true for some adults which might have never found their heart or their space in science, and we still want them to support science via their tax money, via other things they are doing in their life. And so one element of the exhibit is not only these maps, but this is phase one of the exhibit. Phase two, another 10 years. Now that I'm tenured, I can actually officially do it. This was before I was tenured, so don't do that. It's actually pretty risky, not recommended. But now the plan is to not bring static maps to museum floors and to libraries and to national academies and to universities, other ivory towers again, but to bring tools that help people to render their own data and other data into insights. So how do you possibly do this? Because these tools are going to be designed by artists, by social scientists, by physicists, by biologists, by scientometricians, science of science researchers like myself, information scientists. So they use all kinds of different hardware and software elements, all kinds of cool hardware setups also. I mean, just go to the science museum floor, you will see all kinds of different elements in there. And then how can you possibly preserve all these macroscopes, as we call them? So not telescopes, not microscopes that help you to see things that are too far away or too small for your naked eyes to be seen, but macroscopes that help you to see structure and patterns and trends in data. How can we possibly preserve them for the 10 years that this next phase is going to be planned for, but ideally also for the next 400, 500 years? For those maps, that's pretty easy. So we gave an entire set, we sold an entire set of the maps to the Library of Congress and to some other map libraries around the globe. So those good librarians, they are going to take those maps, they put them in a very nice non-moist environment, temperature controlled, and this is going to preserve them for the next 500 years. But how do you do this with software, this active code? So that's a big challenge, and we're still figuring it out, but I think it will be fascinating to have these maps from phase one as a backdrop to a floor filled with different ways to render your own data or other data into insights that hopefully make you fitter and happier and healthier and ultimately really empower your actions. not just look good and kind of serve as eye candy, but really, really make you stronger and better ultimately, and all of us collectively. Now the movie. This was an attempt to communicate to a general audience how much the amount of knowledge has increased. And you might already know this because you are living in a university setting. So every 1.5 years, basically, our collective scholarly technology innovation knowledge doubles. And to be honest, my kids, they're born 30 years after I'm born. So basically, they have to learn a doubling 1 times 5 years, right? And then again another doubling and another doubling. And you can imagine how much more they have to learn compared to what I had to learn at some point. And I have no clue how they could possibly do this, but they're trying it every day. They go to school and they try to learn all this. If you look at it over the ages, then you get to the point where there is today. And it's massive. I think many of us receive many more emails per day than they can humanly process in 24 hours. So what do? These are important emails. There are requests for references, reference letters. There are funding opportunities which you could go for. A grant award might be among those many, many emails you get and you really want to know about it. And there are many other emails that are near and dear to your heart and you want to read this all, but it's just too much. So what do? You need better tools ultimately. However, the ways in which we design tools, they very much determine how we live our lives. And so in this movie, you will also get to see 3 different futures. One future which is sustainable, possibly, and 2 which are more disastrous. And even the sustainable one, we might be able to do better, especially with all the cool School of Informatics and other research, and lots of other research actually also going on here on campus. It's typically not the technology experts which come back with the best technology, it's those which deeply understand human nature. And I think it's really this combination between technology and our understanding of what we are good at that ultimately leads to the best tools. So I will let you enjoy the movie for a while, and then I'm back for question answers.
Was willst du? Ist das, was du willst?
これでいいでしょうか。我々何を
Est-ce
望ん
que
で
c'est
い
ça
る
que
でしょ
nous
うか。
voulons?
Is this what we
Qu'est-ce
want?
que nous voulons?
What do we want?
¿Es esto lo que queremos? ¿Qué queremos?
Is this
Это
what we
то, что
want?
мы хотим.
What do we want?
Что мы
Is
хотим?
this what we want? What do we want?
Est-ce que c'est ça que nous voulons? Qu'est-ce que nous voulons?
Do you want this? What do you want?
This is a full Bloomington crew, as you might have noticed. This Jingfeng Pang, she is, or used to be a fine art student here. And when she gave her masterpiece in the Sofa Gallery, which is called The White Snake, it was just impressively emotional piece. And I thought, wow, I think these maps, they actually get people to react rationally. I think people which have time to engage with these maps, they get to see science and technology and innovation with new eyes. But what I think is needed in order to change behavior is to grab people on a more emotional level. And so when I saw her piece, I wanted to collaborate with her. And so I asked her if she's available to collaborate, and she's like, well, with a scientist, with an engineer, I don't think so. And so she just walked off on me. And then I think her job didn't come out the way she wanted, and so I got another chance. And then we worked very closely with each other for a year, and then she got a tenure track position at the University of Virginia Commonwealth, and she's now in the process of actually getting her tenure. And then at the very, very end, we asked Norbert Herbel from the Department of Telecommunications if he would be available to do the sound for the movie. And he said yes, and it was a really nice collaboration with him as well. So if an artist tells you no, just don't take no for an answer, just go back and ask them again. Did you have any questions?
I would just like to say thank you for giving me the very best instruction. Thank you for my journalism and
Take it. We even have questionnaires. We have free questionnaires at the end of the movie, because I believe every student, so we did this in some telecommunications classes, we asked them, what did you miss in that movie? You know, what did we not include? I mean, there's only so many minutes in that movie. And then we asked them what was the most surprising, or what was something that you would have done differently, or what did you love and hate? So I think it's interesting to get them started to think about these things by showing them something that hopefully touches them, at least to a certain degree, also emotionally, not just rationally. Yep. I'm looking forward to
Can
talking.
you just show us one of your maps to give everybody an idea together what they're
Yeah.
like?
Mm-hmm. So that's a good way in. Let me try to find some. Maybe one that you already saw in the background. How can we get it here? It's right there. So these are the many different languages that are used on Twitter, and each color represents one different language. And given that you can kind of lay it out spatially, you can actually do some tricks so that you can have way more languages than you actually typically would be able to use in colors. So you see that those two, German and Turkish, are actually very similar colors. So it would be very, very hard to use this in a normal data visualization. But given that Turkey and Germany are pretty far away, you kind of can still use them. But what you see here is that in many cases you can see, well, all the Italian-speaking people are right here. But then there's some other areas where you might not have expected so many other languages, or such an intermixture of languages. And also keep in mind, these are very few pixels I have to work here. All the exhibit maps, again, there's 300 dpi and very large scale, so you can actually get much more information from that. And maybe I should mention also that when I started here at Indiana University 16 years ago now, I came here because I wanted to do virtual reality programming, and I did this in Lindley Hall for a while when we still had the cave system there. And however, nobody really wanted to stay and stand in a dark room that's typically cold, because these machines and these projectors really liked it colder. And just standing all the time to manipulate data, or to drive and fly and navigate through data, is just not what people want to do. They want to maybe have their little iPad, and they want to be in a comfy chair and good lighting, and maybe even sunshine, which is not really possible yet with our displays. But it's really interesting that then we went on and we did the universe of virtual worlds here at Indiana University. So we had an entire universe of virtual worlds which were used for teaching. Sasha Baruch used them very effectively, Jim Berg in the business school and others. And they were wonderful for getting students to come into a 3D space, and this was before Second Life and any of these other technologies, and start building learning environments, building educational environments, building business environments, building art galleries. We had an entire replication of the sofa gallery. However, ultimately, people like the real world, I think. So it never really became as popular as I would have hoped. But it was mighty cool. Sometimes I had to move one world from one virtual world universe to another universe. And I had to tell everyone, hey, get out and come back in 10 minutes, but your world will be in that other universe then. And it all worked out, and you have to get everything right, otherwise you lose some objects or you disorient some people which happen to be in that world. But it's all doable, and it was also thanks to the advanced visualization labs that many of these things were possible at all. And then, however, we went back to 2D displays and interactive displays, and that was okay, but given the low resolution of those screens, it never really worked. At least 10 years ago, it didn't really work. And then we started to print. And in that moment, we had all kinds of people knocking on the door trying to give us money. And I think that's also where the exhibit came in, because people are very, very comfortable in unrolling a map, starting to look at it, starting to annotate it. They can even roll it up again and take it home. It's always going to be there. They're very, very comfortable with that. Whereas if I show them a really cool data visualization and it's all interactive, they're like, whoa, I can never get back to that one. And how did she just do that? And it's just different. And I think we are getting to a point that more and more people are familiar with Google Maps, for instance. I think many people have really learned to embrace zooming and panning and accessing details on demand just because they're interacting with Google Maps. But how to do this for science maps? How do you navigate our collective scholarly knowledge? How do you use maps as a visual interface to our library system, for instance, or to movies, to images, etc. So that's trickier. One more map. How much more time do I have? So this is So this is a map also created at Indiana University. Originally, however, at the Los Alamos National Lab. So Johan Borlin, who is now a faculty member in the School of Informatics and Computing, he managed to gain access to clickstream data. So if any of you go to a library website and download a document, and then you download the next document, these two documents are now interlinked, because you first downloaded this one and then the next one. He didn't keep the direction of the link, so independent if you downloaded A first or B first and then A. However, he knew that these two documents must have had something in common because they were accessed kind of one after the next. And so using a ton of this kind of clickstream data from different university settings, from different providers, he then could create a map where each of these little dots represents a discipline of science, which is again composed of multiple journals inside of this discipline. The disciplines are color-coded by the different areas of science. So kind of the biological sciences are in green, the social sciences are in yellow, you have the medical sciences in red, so there's a little bit of color coding going on. And you see that they're all interlinked via those clickstream data sets. He also did this map down here, which uses the same layout like that one. But now you only have two colors. One is yellow for the social sciences, and the other color is blue for the hardcore sciences, if you wish. In Germany, it's actually all Wissenschaft, which is all the scholarly activity. But here in English, you have this distinction. And so you see that the social sciences, they are actually holding all the hardcore sciences together, if you wish, and people are really going through them in order to get from one end to the next. And this map is different because most other maps are created based on publication and citation data. This map is built based on usage data. And there are lots of people out there which use scientific papers, but they would never ever write one. So these are, for instance, doctors in doctors' offices which just want the child in front of them to go home with his or her parents, and not the parents to go home without the child. And they are desperate for curing that child, and they will stop. They won't stop until they actually have found something that could help the child. And so it, I think, would be very interesting to ultimately have maps that truly show what the impact is of much of the research we are doing in our ivory towers oftentimes. And it's hard to get to this kind of impact statement, but I think we are getting closer and closer. Some of you might also have seen that in the Wealth Library we have the illuminated diagram display. So if you have a lunch break and you want to encounter something new, go to the Wealth Library, and there are two large panel displays, kind of Best Buy TVs. And one shows a map of the world, the other one shows a map of science, and then there's a touch panel display. And you can use that display to kind of draw with your finger a square. And so if you're interested in the social sciences, you can draw it over here. And then you will see highlight in the map of the world who is conducting this kind of research. Or you take your pointy fingernail and you try to highlight Bloomington or Harvard or Stanford or whatever you're interested in. And you will see highlight in the map of science what kind of research they are conducting. And if you happen to have a paper in Medline, which is an open database of mostly biomedical research, or if you have an NIH grant, you actually are now made to deposit. All my social science papers are now actually in that database because I have to put it in there. Then you can enter your name here, and you will, if it finds you, it will show you your footprint on the map of the world and on the map of science. And I was trained in Germany, so you will see some papers in Germany. I was trained in engineering, so you will see some of my papers end up in engineering disciplines and then computer science. And now we are collaborating with many people across the sciences which have a lot of data and need desperate insight into these data sets. And so if I don't do maps or don't do movies, then I typically build tools, which we call macroscopes, which help really anyone, or that's at least the attempt, to take data and render it into insights. And if you want to explore that for your own data, we have one of those massively open online courses, which happens every spring. And you can join that for free. Or you can even get one of those data science certificate credits now through the School of Informatics and Computing. And it teaches you basically the tools we have developed and some of the data sources that are now available to take on your own data sets and render it into topical, geospatial, temporal, and network analysis and visualizations. So feel free to check that out. Also, I think there are some handouts back there as well, so please feel free to take those, or I have to bring them back. And if you have any more questions, let me know. And if you have a chance to check out Jing Feng's other work, please do so. If you liked the movie, she has a lot more of those very emotional pieces, and I was very lucky to get to work with her. Thank you.